So in this video, I'm not really holding anything back. I've built out a cold calling guide, which basically covers every single thing that I know about cold calling that I found over making tons and tons of dials. I'm going to walk you through exactly how I do everything: leads, scripts, calling, tracking, and CRM, as well as key things to remember. And I'm not holding anything back here. So you're literally going to see exactly what I do to book 5, 10 plus meetings a day using this exact framework. So let's get into it. The first step is leads. So cold calling is so much easier with good quality data. Like the data that you have for your cold calls is going to be dependent on the outcome that you get, right? So if you plug shitty inputs to the system, you're going to get shitty outputs. So it's like cold email. If you're scraping a bunch of crappy, outdated emails, you're not going to get the best results. So leads is literally the processes of what's going into the system. So you need to make sure they're good. You need to make sure you're calling mobiles. And not only does the data need to be good, but it also needs to be sourced quickly. So if you're spending multiple hours to get the best leads possible, like you're still being stupid with your time, because you could spend that time doing so many other high leverage things. And there are ways to get good quality mobile numbers quickly as well. So I personally use two softwares to generate high quality mobile numbers. And like it says here, they're not shitty landlines just hiding in the corner of an office that no one's touched for years. So I use Apollo and LeadRocks, and I actually have a video on my channel that you can check out exactly how I do this. Essentially, you generate a lead list with Apollo. You use Instant Data Scraper to scrape the LinkedIn URLs, and you plug the LinkedIn URLs into LeadRocks, and you can enrich the mobiles from there. So another way you can get good quality mobile numbers is SalesQL. SalesQL is really good. It just bases off LinkedIn profiles and scrapes the numbers from there. You can use it in bulk. You can literally just go on someone's LinkedIn and get their number directly if you want to be more precise. But getting mobiles is really easy. Another software you can use is Use Artemis. Like again, these are 3 really, really good softwares that you can use, including Apollo, so that's 4. And you should be able to get good high quality mobile numbers quickly as well. So that's how I get good mobile numbers. I'll put it into a lead list. So I'll have the prospect's first name, company name, website, mobile number, any other key information that I think I need. I'll look at what they're doing a little bit beforehand so I can make my script a little bit custom depending on who I'm reaching out to, and then I'll just go from there. But getting good quality mobiles and good quality data is ridiculously important. The next stage is the script. So I've broken down exactly how I structure my script here and exactly what I do to make cold calling effortless. Because if you don't have a good script, no matter how good your tonality is, booking meetings becomes impossible. So it's not like sales where you're meeting a prospect face to face and they can see your body language, they can see your emotion beyond just what you're saying. And all they have to go off is how you're saying it and what you're saying. So every script that I've ever written to book meetings with cold calling for myself has followed this clear formula. And this is an opener, my value statement, asking for permission to explain in more detail, detailed explanation of what I do, so aka explaining in more detail in key steps of what I do, confirming that all makes sense, and then saying my call to action. So this is an example. So this is the opener. Hi, this is Max. I know I've not spoken before, but would you have any objection for me just to give you a quick overview of why I called, and then you can decide whether it makes sense to continue the conversation. Next stage is my value statement. So the reason I'm calling this because we partner with Subniche, which I'll have found out from the data I've generated, agencies in location, make it specific, so the city, the region, etc., who are currently prioritizing growth, and we guarantee to add a minimum of 100K a month in new revenue over 6 months on a zero risk basis with close to zero effort or sacrifice. So making that very centered around value. You want to cover the outcomes, you want to talk about the outcomes at a high level, because then you're asking for permission by saying something like this, and then you're going into more detail about what you do. So we're not dragging this out. This isn't a 10-minute long cold call. This isn't a huge amount of time we're investing into saying this script, because quite frankly, the prospect only cares about the outcomes. And if you're giving them the outcomes and they tell you that you can explain in more detail, then you want to cover your 3 steps of your service at a high level, but also link it into their pain points. And this is your opportunity to show that you actually understand the prospect and give them an idea, give them a sense of confidence that you might be able to solve the problem that they're dealing with. Asking if that makes sense, and then your call to action. Right? So this is all very straightforward, and it follows a very, very clear set of stages for the script. So this is the opener. There's two more I've tested here. So, hi, this is Max calling from your company. How are you? So this isn't even asking for permission. This is just going straight into it. And I like this because it's quick. Prospects don't have a chance to reject you before you say your value statement, because it's almost like how can they respond to how are you with, yeah, I'm not interested, because you haven't said anything. So this allows you to go straight into your value statement. The second one, which is like a permission-based opener, which is kind of like a pattern interrupt with the 30 seconds, is getting more overused. Like prospects are getting used to it, especially in the B2B sector. Depending on what niche you're in, it might be less overused, but may still work well. I personally like the how are you opener, and also this. Like, I know I've not spoken before, but would you have any objection, etc. Because it feels natural to me. If this feels natural to you and it's working, then why not use it? Like, the most important thing with the script, like obviously what you're saying is extremely important, but how comfortable you feel saying your script is ridiculously important. So, like I said, the how are you opener, it allows you to just go straight into your value statement, and prospects don't even have a chance to say not interested, because everyone that you speak to will hear your value statement if they pick up. So again, like the next stage is the value statement. So all this does, the whole purpose that this serves is just capturing the attention of your prospect. So we're not selling them anything here. We're literally just getting them to register initial interest, which we can then use that interest from them to leverage into a meeting. We want to structure that value statement with this framework in mind. So dream outcome, perceived likelihood of achievement, which is case studies, time delay, and effort and sacrifice. And that all equals value. You've probably seen this before. So again, the first part of my value statement calls out my niche. So talk about the sub niche, talk about the location. And like I said, when sourcing the leads and scraping the data, make sure that in your Google Sheet or whatever you're using, you're putting that prospect data in that sheet so you can see the specific industry, specific sub niche or whatever it is, and their location as well. So you can tailor your script before calling each prospect towards them. And it makes it a lot more effective. So instead of saying in your script, we partner with construction companies in the US, if in your sheet, in your data source, you know that they're a high-rise construction company and they're in Michigan, why not change the start of your value statement to say something like this, which is a lot more tailored, and it just calls the prospect out. It really is a lot more specific to them. So you're just using the data available to you to tailor that script. The second part is essentially just talking about the effort and sacrifice, talking about their dream outcome, and talking about the time that's going to take them to get the result. So for me, it was at a minimum of 100K a month in new revenue, over 6 months on a zero risk basis with close to zero effort or sacrifice on your side. Ideally, you can use social proof to increase that perceived likelihood of achievement. So here's an example for the gym niche. So we work with gym owners in, Baltimore to get them an extra 20 to 50 guaranteed new members on pay on results appointments within 30 days with no risk or little effort on your side. We got Tim, the owner of Core Gym, 45 new members in his first month, which increased his revenue to an extra 5K in recurring revenue every month in 30 days. So you can sort of see how that value statement is positioned, and this is the best way to do it. If you don't want to make it as outcome focused, that's fine. You probably won't get as good results, but if it feels more comfortable to you, then that's great. Just the most important thing, which we're going to get onto, is testing and making sure it's comfortable for you. But following this formula is also going to get you insane results. So I don't know why you wouldn't do it. So exactly, just the value statement, all it serves as is just getting an initial sense of interest from the prospect, just to allow you to continue. That's all we're doing. We're just allowing them to let you continue. Permission to explain in more detail. So this is extremely simple. All we're doing is just asking them for another 20, 30 seconds, depending on how long it takes for you to say more detail, to explain in more detail. And what I like to say is, like, do you mind giving me 30 seconds just to go into a little bit more detail? That feels natural for me to say. That feels comfortable. Would you hate me? You can even put some humor into it. So would you hate me if I carried on speaking to you for another 30 seconds? Probably laugh. They'll probably think that's funny. You can experiment with different variations and ways to phrase it. So like I said, make sure it sounds natural, because not only are you going to feel more comfortable saying it, but your tonality is also going to be better as well. And cold calling is going to be easier because you're not going to look at it so negatively. I wouldn't overthink this section, because like all we're doing is just asking for a little bit more time. The value statement is going to depend what they say to this question. So again, detailed explanation and steps is the next stage. So now we want to break down how your service works in no more than 3 steps. So basically, it's your chance to show the prospect that you actually have industry knowledge and you're not just some idiot just throwing around these crazy outcomes, and you actually understand how the industry works. So you can talk, like few people can actually talk about industry specific pain points and problems that their target market is facing, and do it with complete understanding and clarity as well. So the detailed explanation that I used is built specifically for established marketing agencies, which is my niche, and it mentions industry-specific pain points and goals in each step, such as concentrating on higher-paying clients, the feast and famine cycle of getting new business, not having structure in their sales process. So that's why you need a solid understanding of your niche, because in order to talk this through confidently, like you can't do it without understanding the niche, and this is what sets you apart. So the more that it's linked into specific pain points that they're having, the more they're going to feel understood, and the more they're going to be likely to give you their time on a call. So only include the steps here, only talk about the steps that are actually necessary for them to achieve that end goal, and try and keep it outcomes focused as well, because no one wants to hear about the means, right? Like save that for the call when you're going into detail. Don't talk about it on a cold call when we're only just trying to get interest. So make sure it's comfortable for you to say, obviously. And mine is slightly wordy because of the sophistication of the niche, but you can make yours shorter depending on your ICP. Again, it all comes down to testing and making sure it's comfortable. Confirmation. So again, this is really simple. So just asking them, does that make sense? So after you've said your three pillars, or however many pillars you have about your service, and you've explained it in more detail, you want to get confirmation on that makes sense. So either they're going to say yes, or either they're going to say, no, I have some questions. How does this work? So it gives you a great opportunity to pause, either get a yes from them. So you've got that third yes that they've given you, which is great. And it also gives them a chance to pause and ask you some questions. So on the yes side, we've already gotten them to say yes 3 times if they say yes to this. So that's 3 times. So getting them to say yes is helping the prospect essentially build agreement and rapport. It's all psychological, and it makes them more likely to say yes to the macro agreement, because we've already got 3 smaller yeses from them. We've got it in the permission-based opener, we've got it from asking to go into more detail, and we've got it from does that make sense? If they have more questions, answer the questions and then go back to this and say, does that make sense? So you can get that third yes. So the more yeses we get prior to the final decision, the easier it is for them to make that bigger decision in our favor, which is obviously getting on a meeting with us. If the prospect says it doesn't, simply ask them about what needs further clarification on your service and respond to the questions from there. Don't go into too much detail, keep it high level, and you should be good. Call to action. So call to action needs to be concise, it needs to be straight to the point, it needs to be said with authority. And the goal here is to make it hard for the prospect to say no. So we want to make sure that it's going to be hard for them to say no, like I said. So I've said this before in loads of videos, but if you're saying to the prospect on the call, like, I was just wondering if you would potentially be available on Wednesday next week, but no worries if not. Like you're giving them an easy way out. So what we want to do with the prospect is we want to make it hard for them to say no. So we want to phrase it in a way that doesn't give them an easy way out. So for example, something like this, which is what I'm saying. I'm looking to set up a time to chat next week just to get introduced and aligned on this going forward. How does your calendar look on Wednesday? And instead of saying day/day, I would actually say Wednesday and then give a specific time. And if they can't do that specific time, just go back and forth until you can actually find a good time which works for both of you. So this is much easier to say with authority and with confidence because you're being specific rather than ambiguous. If you're being ambiguous in what you're asking for, it's very easy for that to reflect in your speech. So it's hard to be ambiguous, like in what you're saying, and then confident and authoritative at the same time. So make it easier for yourself. So always have your calendar pulled up as well when you're calling the prospect, because the last thing you want to do is be stalling when you're going back and forth for the right time, and have a problem there not being able to book something in quick enough because prospects are busy, like you're calling business owners. So have that calendar always pulled up and get ready to book them in. Just make yourself easily available for the prospect. So you're either going to get the prospect booked in for that time, go back and forth with the prospect to find another time, or they're going to hit you with objections. Made a video on how to handle objections. It's here on my YouTube channel. You can check it out. And that pretty much sums everything about the script up. Like, the script is pretty simple, and that's how it goes. You can tailor this all for your niche, but these things here are the core pillars of your script. So there's six stages here. If you do those all correctly, based on the principles that I've talked about, you should get some really good results. So the next stage is calling. So this is really simple, but there are some questions to be answered, and a lot of people don't do it correctly, and it's costing them a lot of time. So previously I used Skype on my desktop, so I would just buy like an unlimited subscription to either North America, UK, wherever I wanted to call, and it'd also give me a native number so I could reflect that, and I'd literally have the numbers on a Google Sheet, put my headphones in, I'd be listening to some music as well, I'd copy the number from my data source, I'd paste it into Skype, and I'd call it. And then essentially I moved on slowly to power dialers, because power dialers are a lot quicker, a lot more cost effective, and they make cold calling a lot more fun. So if you have, like, I don't know, I think with Go High Level, it might be, you can get it for, I don't know, $49 a month on the lower ticket plan. I might be wrong. But if you have the capital to invest, definitely do this, because you can make progress so much faster, and you can speak to way more leads in the set amount of time that you're cold calling. Also, it makes like the number of conversations you can have is just so much more, and it allows you to not have so much resistance around calling. If you're someone that has fear around cold calling, even if you want to save time, like, it just makes it easier. You're not questioning yourself every time you're calling a prospect, because it's just done automatically through the power dialer. So here's a video on how to set up the power dialer on Go High Level. I would only recommend not using it if you don't have the money to invest, but basically for everyone, just use it, because it's going to make it so much easier. It's going to be one of the best investments you can make for cold calling. It's going to make it so much more fun. So you can just do a quick Google search if you want to find other power dialers. Another one you can use is close.com. Again, that's a CRM as well. So if you want to use that as a CRM, it's really good. And yeah, just find one with unlimited minutes to the country you wish to target, because again, calling at volume is the best thing you can do to book a lot of meetings. The next thing here is tracking and CRM. So with tracking in your CRM, if you're not tracking metrics, it's like you're literally just burning through valuable data that you can use to make iterations. You're never going to know what's working. It's going to be very hard for you to have the discipline to stay with things if you don't know your numbers, and you don't know that if I put this in, I'm going to get this out. It just becomes exponentially harder, and you're just making things harder on yourself by not tracking the metrics, because although it can be tedious to log the numbers every day, it only takes about 10-15 minutes of your time, and it's going to get you insane returns that you can't even imagine. If you're not tracking your data, you don't know where you're going wrong, you don't know where you are going right, and you're not going to be able to make any changes that are going to get you better results. So if you're not tracking metrics, you need to do it. You end up firing in the dark, and you have to guess how well your script is working, and you can't make changes to it without knowing how it's going. So basically you just say goodbye to booking more meetings. Here's the tracking sheet that I use. It's really simple. It just tracks positive response rate, tracks pitch rate, like resignation rate. So that's basically positive responses from the prospect, appointment booking rate, and then it also tracks my sharp rate and my sales conversion rate from cold calls as well. So you don't need something more complicated than that. Again, like it tracks the four key things that I needed. So calls made, pickups, pitches, positive responses, and calls booked. So for every script that you're testing, you need a separate tracking sheet. And when you're testing things and when you're making changes, only test one variable at a time. So if I go back to my scripts, like maybe I'll split test the the value statement. I'll change like one element of the value statement. Because if I'm changing multiple elements of my script, like I have no idea why, like what element that I changed is causing the script to work better or worse. So only change one variable at a time, otherwise you'll have no idea what's working or why it's working. So test with enough data as well. So when you're doing tests, you want to run tests and you want to make enough calls to actually, like you want to have enough data to actually make a conclusion, right? So don't just make 20 cold calls and say, okay, this script isn't working. I would say get at least 150 pickups before you judge a script. You can do less, you can do about 100, but the more data, the better when testing, because the more accurate it's going to be. So yeah, don't come to conclusions about your script until you've got at least 100 pickups with it. And you need a system for logging interested leads, basically a CRM for your cold calling. This is the one I use. I've deleted the mobile numbers from here because there's probably going to be some weirdo out there that calls the leads that I previously called. But yeah, this would what it would be. So it would be the name of the business owner's name, gatekeeper if there was one. I was calling mobiles, so I could have deleted this. It wasn't relevant. Their mobile number in here, the date that I engaged with them, whether I was going to call them back, and notes. So again, I'll put in notes here. Again, this was for not interested, so I didn't really have to put any notes. But for interested prospects, it would look pretty similar. So business, owner name, location, phone, date engaged, call back. And then I'd have like a color coding system for depending on the day it was. And I'd highlight the prospect in the corresponding color, depending on whether I'd pitched them. We had a call booked, they had responded positively and I'd pitched them as well, or they're booked and not interested. And these were some of the notes that I'd make. So for example, said getting new clients wasn't priority at the moment, said call back in 6 months. Called back in 6 months, I spoke to David, he's planning to scale in the new year, but not taking on any new clients. So this is just an example of the notes that you can make. So for example, this guy I booked in, I just click booked like this. Make the notes that are actually relevant, essentially. But you're going to get a lot of people. I only put them in not interested if they say they're not interested. A lot of people will ask for follow-ups. A lot of people will say they're not interested at the moment, but they want to call back. So yeah, log those prospects in here and then log the not interested prospects in here. And I'll put a link to this in the description so you can access this whole guide and the sheets as well. So just some key things to remember that are really important that have helped me a ton. Seek to ritualize cold calling. So make it a habit. Do it at the same time every day and set a target for the amount of dials that you want to make. Because very quickly that's going to become a habit and it won't require much effort. It's not going to require much willpower because you know that if I sit down here at 9 a.m., I'm just going to end up doing these dials because I've scheduled it in for my calendar. It's a habit of mine. I've done it for the last 2 weeks and I'm definitely going to do it because it's like brushing my teeth. I've made it normal. I've made it a ritual. Again, like don't take things personally. Don't take rejection personally. View all the prospects that you're calling as NPCs. They're just a voice on the other end of the phone. They don't care that much. Like it's actually selfish to think that they care because like they have other things going on. They don't really care about someone calling them and taking up 30 seconds to 2 minutes of their day when they've got 1,000 different other things going on as a business owner. So they really don't care that much. They're only rejecting your offer, not you. And it reflects, if they're horrible to you, which is really rare, it really reflects a lot more on them than it does on you. So you want to come across as excited and professionally enthusiastic, but don't be too salesy and don't be too much. Don't be too like hypey. Tonality is everything. Keep this clear, keep this confident and enthusiastic without coming across as overly salesy and weird. So like I said, the prospect is a voice hundreds, if not thousands of miles away on the other end of the phone. So almost just perceive them as not real and it becomes very hard to be scared of it when you have that mindset. The more no's you have, the closer you are to a yes. So get through all those no's, get through all those rejections, and you know, especially if you know your numbers, this is why knowing your numbers is extremely important. By the law of averages, if I've got 10 no's, and I know I book a meeting for every 10 pickups, like a meeting is very, very soon and it's around the corner. So if you know your numbers, this is a lot easier, but you can also keep this in mind. Like the more no's you get, the closer you are to a yes. Listen to music whilst cold calling if you're finding it something hard to do, especially at the start when you're making it a habit. I'd say it makes it a lot more enjoyable. I do it pretty much every time I cold call and it makes it a lot easier to get done. I just put in my favorite music and yeah, it's fun for sure. Practice delivering your script and listen back to how you're saying it as well. So record yourself cold calling. Like maybe just if you're cold calling on your computer with a power dialer, just put your phone to the side, hit record, and then listen back to how you're saying your script. And then in your free time after you've made your dials, analyze it and think, okay, how could I be better? Practice it, record yourself, practice it again, listen back, and you would have seen improvements if you're actually trying to get better. Because like it's easy to make amendments to your script, but like it's less like concrete to like less people make changes to their tonality and less people track their tonality as well. So if you're tracking it, like you're gonna be ahead of a huge amount of people because no one is really practicing their delivery on the script as well. So again, like it's gonna feel uncomfortable at first to cold call people because you're probably gonna have some weird beliefs around it. And this is how you know you're growing. If it feels uncomfortable, if you don't want to do it, but you do it anyway, like it's a sign that you're pushing past that barrier of pain, and pain is the currency of growth. So the more pain, the more uncomfortable it feels, probably is more necessary to do for yourself, especially because cold calling is literally the fastest and best way to book meetings with your ICP. So you're naturally going to have some resistance towards doing it, but over time it's going to feel a lot more comfortable. It's going to become a habit if you ritualize it, and if you do everything right, you're going to have a lot of positive associations with it because you're going to get great results. So it's the best form of outreach for your personal development and character because not only are you booking meetings in the best way possible, but you're also improving your verbal dexterity, you're improving your communication skills, and it's literally sales. Like you're doing live objection handling. Prospects are going to hit you with objections on cold calls. So literally not only are you getting better at your communication, you're also booking meetings and then getting better at objection handling as well, which is incredible. So that's everything. That's basically everything I know about cold calling. There's a few more things I could put in here. I might do some future videos down the line, but if you apply everything in here, there's no way that you're not booking at a minimum 3 meetings a day. If you do enough volume, like you can book at least 5, 10 plus meetings a day. You can outsource these SOPs to your team that you have cold calling for you if you want to build that out. And yeah, this should give you a lot of things that you need. If you want to book a call to explore how we can help you, we do 2-to-1 mentorship, myself and my business partner. There's a link here that I'll also put in the description. And yeah, I'm also going to put a link to this whole guide in the description. And you can get access to it, so you can copy things, you can duplicate it, and you can go from there. But that's everything for this video. Hopefully you found it interesting, and I'll see you in the next one.